Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Michael Scognamilio. I'm part of our Asset Outbound Product Management team. I want to welcome everybody to a very special live event session, how RFID Technology is boosting productivity with ServiceNow Hardware Asset Management and Zebra Technologies. We're really excited to have a guest today in the form of Zebra, and we'll be introducing them shortly. If this is your first live event, welcome. Scan the QR code on the right here for upcoming live event sessions. These are a number of hour-long webinars that we have to help you adopt, deploy, and achieve value faster across all of our ITAM products. And we encourage you to check out the upcoming ones and a recorded history of prior live events. But first, a few announcements. Some of the information that we present today is privileged and confidential, so please bear that in mind. And also, here's our safe harbor notice. Some of the information we'll be showing today is forward-looking in nature, so please keep in mind that some of that will be subject to change. With that out of the way, a big warm welcome to everybody. A ServiceNow live event is our commitment to you as a customer to deliver relevant content to you wherever you are in your journey. I'll be introducing you to today's hosts. Of course, I've introduced myself, but we also have Victor Paredes Colonia, a colleague of mine in the Outbound Product Management team. But even more importantly, we brought two guests of honor with us today. First, Michael Smith, a Principal Inbound Product Manager in the Hardware Asset Management BU at ServiceNow. We're also delighted to have our guest, John Fulton, a Technical Sales Consultant at Zebra Technologies. He'll join us today to dive a bit deeper into the platform. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
So today, just to level set with everybody on the call, we're going to do a brief overview of what is ServiceNow HAM and what is RFID technology. A primer that'll get us going for the remainder of the conversation. First, a deep dive into Zebra MotionWorks real-time location system, and then the ServiceNow automation location data, or the collaboration between Zebra and ServiceNow, and kind of the real meat and potatoes of today's call. Throughout this call, please submit your related questions in the Q&A form at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be getting to those at the end of the call. A couple things, just stay focused on the topics of the day. Please share time with others. Try and articulate your questions in the chat so that we can really understand them in one go and answer them surgically. And we'll do our best to follow up and make sure we get to the bottom of your question. Contribute what you know. Let's make it an open forum and use the chat feature to chime in here and there. And then very importantly, please fill out our post-event survey. It'll pop up automatically at the end of the Zoom, and your feedback is very vital to us. So without further ado, let us get right into it. All right, so our first topic is hardware asset management and RFID. So I'm gonna ask Michael Smith to set the stage here. What is ServiceNow HAM and what is so unique about the Now platform?
Sure, and thanks for that, Michael. I did want to spend some time to kind of discuss on how that single platform, and if you could flip to the next slide for me, please, Michael, will help us better manage the entire hardware asset lifecycle, right? Having those links between the asset space as well as incident management, change management, request management, to really have the hooks in to manage that whole asset lifecycle. And building that all into the single platform so you're not solo chairing. In my past experience with asset management, I would use 5 to 10 tools a day, depending on what organization I work for, because I had a different tool for this or a different tool for this, or this type of equipment we manage in this system. So there's a lot of benefit for bringing everything into one platform. And we have an app store. So if you have integrations with other tools, very easy to connect those other tools and still work out of the single tool. So hardware asset management within ServiceNow is a product that it's an additional product on top of base asset management that allows you to automate a lot of the transactions that happen throughout the course of an asset's life, whether it's a request, a disposal workflow, as well as bringing in normalization to support that as well. So our hardware asset management product we rolled out in the Paris release. And we just came through Tokyo. So we've got a solid 5 releases under our belt. And it's very exciting now that we're at a place where we can start working with our great partners like Zebra to help solidify and make it easier for our customers to manage their assets. And I know that there's not too many customers that are using asset management that don't have a Zebra device somewhere, whether it's a printer, scanner, or RFID technology in their environment. So you can see here the blue section of this pyramid. This is what comes with our base ITSM asset management license, that it's anyone that's using incident or change or CSM has access to these tables, and managing the data in this table is a manual process, right? You have to go in and update and make updates manually as you go through and update the different transactions of an asset's life, whether it's a transfer order, purchase order, or updating assets to contracts. But the top section where we start talking about HAM or hardware asset management is where that automation comes in, and that's really bringing in all these different workflows and other features and functionality that really improve the quality of life for an asset manager.
Awesome. I think the slide's fantastic to truly understand kind of the difference here with what we're talking about, that next level with hardware asset management. Sure. Okay. So on this slide, we can see a bit here about how asset data is entered and normalized. And can you maybe speak to this a little bit more right before we jump into how RFID tech comes into play?
Absolutely, Michael. So one of the challenges that a lot of organizations face is there's lots of pockets of data within the organization, right? You may have your various discovery tools, whether it's ServiceNow Discovery, or maybe you're using SCCM or Jamf for Apple devices, or Tanium, whatever discovery tools that you're using out there in the world. We have spokes and hubs on our store, much like the Zebra app. You can go to our store and download it. Most of these are free. And it allows you to bring that data in to kind of start populating your CMDB to give you that visibility to your asset estate, to know what assets that you have out there. But the problem with that is oftentimes, and when we're talking about bringing in data from procurement systems, maybe vendors are providing information through, advanced shipping notices. Maybe you're working on a spreadsheet. Maybe you have a team that's managing their assets out of a spreadsheet and they're giving you an update with that. Or you have a third-party logistics vendor that's managing your inventory. Having all these different sources means you're going to have data coming in all different shapes and sizes. So one of the first benefits you're going to get with hardware asset management is you're going to get our normalization engine that runs against our content library. And our content library today has more than 2 million models in it, along with giving you a normalized manufacturer, product name, and model number. You're also going to get some classifications that align with the UN USPC codes. You're going to get lifecycle dates, so you'll know if the vendor has published these dates, when it went general availability, when it went end of sale, when it went end of life. So you're going to get visibility into those dates, and you're going to get a clean data set to work off of. So now you can report off of those fields and use that data. And that will help support the entire asset workflow, whether it's from the acquisition all the way through disposal, right? So that's really a big benefit. And by keeping a clean and relevant data set, you're getting out of the data management business and into the asset management business, right? And so now your data has become something that people want to see, people care about, they become invested because they can count on it, right? Whether they're doing a break fix and they can look and they know with confidence that if it shows 5 assets in the inventory, it doesn't. They don't have to worry that it's there or not there. So these are all really great things. One of the blind spots that organizations have had in the past, though, is what happens to an asset when it's not on the network, when it's not plugged in, when it's just sitting on a box on a shelf, or in a drawer, or in the corner of a data center where it's not being used. That's been a huge blind spot, and organizations struggle with that every day. And now with this team up with Zebra and this product that Zebra's put on our store that's absolutely free to use, if you're using MotionWorks with Zebra, you're capturing that location data in real time with the RFID. Now that data is in ServiceNow as well. So even if something's not plugged in, it's just sitting in a corner somewhere, now we can bring in that asset intelligence as well, making your asset management database even more relevant and even more reliable. It's a huge benefit.
Wow, fantastic! That sounds like a major addition to an administrator's life. So let's transition over to John from Zebra Technologies. John, I think Michael just gave us a great preview of RFID tech, but tell us a little bit more about what it is and its role in this ecosystem.
Exactly. Thank you, Michael. So for those who may not be aware, what is RFID? RFID is a small chip and an antenna. We're talking about passive RFID here, radio frequency identification. It's a way to automatically identify the assets that you've got tagged. Similar to a barcode in the fact that you're going to scan or read something, and that's going to auto ID that within your system, but different from a barcode in that it doesn't require line of sight. It doesn't require necessarily manual scanning. You can cover larger areas. You can cover, reading assets as they're going through portals. In some cases, even in real-time location events. But the big thing is the automation of that. I'm automatically capturing those assets. I'm getting events that allow me to know where and when an asset was last seen without necessarily having to take a scanner and put a dot on a barcode, right? I can do that in a much more holistic way. This does follow a lot of standards as well. We've been working on ultra high frequency or UHF RFID, getting that adopted by the market for many, many years. Gen 2 is finally out and finally being adopted by more and more people these days as a way of automatically identifying their assets. One quick caution here, a lot of people ask, which is better? Is it better to have barcode? Is it better to have RFID? And my answer to that is both. You don't have to give up barcodes to utilize RFID. In many cases, especially with the Zebra printers and encoders, we can print the same label that the customer is already using and then just have an inlay of RFID inside that label and encode that. So why do companies use RFID? And one of the biggest reasons that they do, especially these days, is the lack of people, right? They don't have enough manpower to get everything done that they need. People are overtaxed that are there. So we want to automate that as much as possible, get those RFID events, those read events, those location events, bring them in an automated fashion, and therefore reduce the amount of cost for overhead management, entering of data, and also eliminate those blind spots like Michael was talking about. Give us more data, more in real time than we were getting before.
Awesome.
Next slide. Okay.
Yes. So on the next slide here, I'd love to thank you for the primer on RFID tech. Can you talk to us a little bit more about Zebra technology in particular and why the team is such a leading player in the field?
Sure. So Zebra has got one of the largest RFID portfolios in the market, whether that's printers that are also encoders, readers that are fixed or readers that are handhelds, overhead readers, antennas, just a wide variety of products. And it's not only in the passive RFID, but also in the active RFID space, whether that's ultra wideband, our proprietary WareNet active RFID, Bluetooth low energy, GPS for outdoor accuracy, a lot of different ways that we can take advantage of both active and passive RFID. And in fact, Zebra has been nominated for the third year in a row in the leader quadrant of the Magic Quadrant by Gartner for indoor locates. So a large hardware portfolio and the leadership role for active RTLS and passive RTLS management of assets. So just to talk a little bit about that, going a little further, how do we do that? And in this case, we've reduced the sensing hardware just to keep the slide a little bit cleaner, but whether it's barcode, passive RFID, Bluetooth low energy, other technologies as well, as I had already mentioned, but any or all of those can feed into our middleware platform, which is called MotionWorks Enterprise. We can take that, we can standardize that data, we can normalize that data, and then provide that data out to a true asset management product or an ERP system or a warehouse management system, something along those lines. But keeping in mind, MotionWorks is not trying to play in that space. We're not trying to take that over. We're acting as the location event engine. We know that we know how to talk to all of our hardware and all of our edge devices, and we just want to take that information and make that available to our customers and partners so that they can take that data, take that information, and make sense out of it. And in this case, again, that's exactly what we're doing with hardware asset management. MotionWorks provides the device management, the location information, the zoning, all of that information. We save the upstream customers from all of that by dealing with that all in MotionWorks, right? So again, think of it as a location and location event engine, but there's a little bit more to that, right? We can provide a little extra data. We do record things like dwell time, zone information, site information, where was it seen, how long did it stay there, things of that nature. And then we provide APIs that allow us to feed that data up, right? We can do that at multiple different sites. If customers have multiple sites in their enterprise, we can feed all of that into one instance of MotionWorks Enterprise so that there's only one integration point. And that's really where this meets up with hardware asset management and ServiceNow, is being able to provide that information, right? Whether it's real time or near real time, the location engine starts off with a map. We overlay zones on top of that. We apply filtering to that so that we can understand what is where, when was it last seen there, and give our users, the Zebra MotionWorks users, the ability to utilize that location engine and find out where their things are. Now, we have a number of customers that use this almost as an application, and all they need to know is where is their stuff. But really much more common is that customers are using those API interfaces and feeding that data up into their upstream application systems.
Thank you, John. I love this visual. That looks so cool with the map. I believe we have a bit of time if you wanted to show us a peek of the platform. Is that something you'd like to do?
Love to. I've just got a demo system here. Let me share my screen. Got a demo system of my office here in Troy, Michigan, which, by the way, it is sunny in Troy, Michigan in November. That's a very unusual thing. So very, very happy to have that today. Not going to compete with Texas, but it's not too bad all in all. So you can see here what I've got. This is the primary reporting interface for MotionWorks Enterprise. I've got my filters, as I had mentioned, so that I can look at only certain sets of data, only certain resource types, understand how long something's dwelled in a given area. I have other filters as well that I can turn on if they're relevant to me, but I'm keeping it simple here. Then in the middle, I've got a data pane, which shows me information about those individual resources, what they are, what tags associated to them, what zone they're in, what site they're in, if I want to see that, how long they've dwelled there, X, Y, Z coordinates, latitude, longitude, if the customer chooses to bring that information in or set that up. And then all of that translates to the map so that I can understand which assets are where, give me a visualization of that. I can play back where things have been, since it is a database system that does record history. I can keep other information about those assets, set up alerts when they go into certain zones, things of that nature. But again, not everyone uses the interface. Most use it as a middleware, but it is there for us to be able to see what's going on, understand, what does the map look like? What does the site look like? What are the zones and what are the names that we apply to them on top of that? All right.
Awesome. Comprehensive tool. Thanks so much for showing us that.
Sure.
All right. So now that we've seen a little bit more about how Zebra works, let's talk a little bit more how it works with ServiceNow. Michael, why don't you introduce us to Nicole?
Sure, no problem. Thank you. So Nicole is a representation of one of our customers that's faced a lot of these challenges, right? She's an IT asset manager for a hospital, and they're responsible for managing all the IT hardware assets at the hospital, including receiving new assets and then maintaining inventory accuracy. And normally with a hospital, you have a big campus, so there's buildings all over the place, and these assets are always on the move. So this hospital has invested in barcode and RFID scanners from Zebra Technology. And she runs into these critical challenges, right? After you receive an asset or doing an inventory at the hospital, she has to maintain compliance to various agencies that, and every industry has their own watchdog agencies where they have to be able to say, this is where this asset is right now, if it's still on the network. So she runs into lots of problems today, having to do imports manually to maintain the accuracy. So this is really where they were today. You're doing a lot of swivel chairing, getting exports, doing manual data input in ServiceNow, and having to manage it today manually. What she wants to do is she wants to move into automation, and that's where you can rely on all that great stuff that Jonathan just showed us, that real-time location data, and having that data directly built into ServiceNow. So with the MotionWorks Asset Management Connector from the store, connected right into the platform of platforms, now any incidents, any requests, we can rely on all that data right there in the system and in real time. And to have that, because what Jonathan just showed us from a real-time perspective, that's great, but you need a license to be able to go in there and view that data. And not all the asset management team is going to have that license, right? Or not all the incident managers will be able to say with confidence that asset's on floor 3, or that asset has left the building and we have an event now because that asset's in the parking lot, right? So having everyone that has that asset access within ServiceNow to have access to that data is such a huge win for Nicole and the rest of her asset organization. So, and that's with this. Now you can bring in the data. We've created new tables, and this is the only the only full partnership that we have with an RFID tool today. There's other RFID tools out there, but we went with Zebra to build this because in our eyes, Zebra was doing the best, right? We wanted to align with the best. So now you've got this connection with Zebra out of the box. It's scheduled to come in daily. You can have it come in hourly. You can have it come in on demand. You could run a scan and bring in the asset data at this very second if you need to know right now where that data is. And now we've got the ability to actually track the data in against the asset records. So we can start looking at reports and say, okay, our records show that this asset is in California, but Zebra, the RFID scanner, is coming back and saying this asset was in New York, right? And you can start running audits against your own data versus the real-time location data. We can look at assets that are in inventory for long periods of time, and so on and so forth. So the potential of having these two systems connected is and automated is unlimitless, really.
Wow, awesome. So this is available right now in the ServiceNow store. Thanks for walking through some of this, better together story here between Zebra and ServiceNow. What we're going to do now is John and Michael might chime in too. We have a couple of setup slides that we're going to walk through, and then kind of the main event, Michael is going to be walking us through the demo in the platform. So we're really excited about that. So we can keep it moving here.
Thank you, Michael. I'll take this part since it's the MotionWorks part. So unfortunately, it's not magic. I wish that it were, but the data does have to be entered somewhere at some point. And in this case, we have to enter the data about the asset, the asset ID. We call it a resource ID in Zebra speak. You call it a serial number. Then we have to connect that to its tag. Now that can be done in multiple ways. We can do that through the user interface. It can be typed in, scanned in, whatever that may be. We have a mobile application that makes it a little more simple so that it can be done in real time. We do have the ability to import files so that we can bring in CSV files and upload large amounts of data at one time. Or, and I don't have a picture of it, but as I had mentioned, we do have APIs that can automate the input of that data as well from another system. So lots of different ways to get the data into MotionWorks to begin with. So here's where that connector happens. There is a singular piece of information. Again, in Zebra parlance, it's the resource ID. In ServiceNow hardware asset management, it is called the serial number. So we have to make sure those two pieces of data match. Once those two are set up and are the same, we've added the resource in MotionWorks. We've added the serial number in hardware asset management. Then we can begin making life a lot easier with the connector. As Michael had mentioned, the connector has a script that runs already out of the box that takes care of moving the data from one set of tables to another set of tables. It does have a schedule that it's going to run on once a day out of the box. But again, just like other scheduled tasks that you have within ServiceNow, you can schedule those to run as need be, or again, there's the execute now button so that you can run it at any time. The reason there are two windows here, it is a two-part process. We go and get the data out of MotionWorks Enterprise. That's the first script that's going to run on the schedule. And then once that data is all collected, then it'll be populated into the hardware asset management tables. So that's the second piece. And then as we can see, and my apologies, I haven't upgraded to the latest view yet. So this is the slightly older view, but you can see on the general tab in the first page there, the automation of that RFID tag that's been brought in through the connector. So now we have that auto ID that allows us to sync those up. And then if you look at the RFID tab, these are those new tables that Michael was speaking of, right? The new data, all that information about what site is it? What zone is it in? What are the XY coordinates? You know, where did that tag come from? How long has it been there? How long has it dwelled in its site, in its zone? All that information is now available in hardware asset management because Zebra did the work of collecting that through MotionWorks Enterprise. Michael, did you have any other comments on that?
No, this is one of the other things that and I know Michael called this out earlier is but under Safe Harbor. One of the things that happens when we turn on this connector is we decide what types of resources, as we call them model categories in ServiceNow, Zebra calls them resources, what types that we want to bring in. From a HAM perspective, we're really just focused on IT infrastructure. But our enterprise asset management team is working on adding to this connector. So we've created a general table that can bring this data in and can be connected to any asset table that you have. So whether you're a HAM customer or an enterprise asset management customer, which the sky's the limit with RFID and EAM. Unfortunately, we built this and started this partnership before EAM existed. So we got a little bit ahead of ourselves with that, but something that will be coming in our Utah release. We'll be expanding this out so you can start connecting the resource categories from Zebra into the model categories within ServiceNow. So if you're wanting to use it for medical equipment, not just the IT infrastructure, you'll be able to do that as well. So just something, and you can see here from these screen shares, when we finish this, our new workspace views weren't even online yet. And I will be able to show you what this looks like in the new workspace view. And there's also some process on the ServiceNow side, as there's going to be a lot of assets that are in MotionWorks that are RFID tagged that we may not have in ServiceNow because of the fact that these antennas and these readers can be a little bit more thorough than human eyes, and you may have missed some assets in a process flow. So you may have a pile of assets in a corner of a data center that no one's ever checked in, but guess what? They have an RFID tag on them and they're in MotionWorks. So you're going to have the ability to make decisions as these assets come into ServiceNow to match them. And you're going to get an important action card now in your workspace views that show you unmatched RFID tags. So you can go in and look at those and say, wow, I don't even have this asset yet. Or I need to force match this asset because I didn't know there was an RFID tag on it. So having this extra set of eyes that see everything, right, when this tag is on there is such a benefit to your asset repository.
And Zebra can also help with some of that as well. There's filtering that we can do on the MotionWorks Enterprise side to help us keep out, as RFID begins to proliferate more and more, I may only have a certain subset of tags, my asset tags that I really want to pay attention to. I may not want to pay attention to every tag that comes in from every vendor if it's not the unique identifier that I want to use. So MotionWorks can help by filtering that out before it ever even gets to hardware asset management.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And because of the flexibility that Zebra provides within MotionWorks, we had to come up with a way to really map these, because a lot of the fields that customers were collecting in MotionWorks were custom. So now you have the ability, as part of this transform, when we set up the connector to map everything that's not out of the box. We've mapped all the major fields, the static fields, but if you have additional fields, you can create mappings for that as well.
Amazing. Great conversation there. And thank you, John, for walking us through the upfront here. Michael, I understand you have something to show us here in the platform.
Sure. We can take a quick, I'm going to jump in and grab the share here, and I can do a quick show and tell of what this looks like now in the platform. We can show what a regular Apple MacBook here. Confirm that you can see my screen. Okay.
Confirmed. Yep.
So now this is the new workspace view here of an asset record. I'm in my asset estate. And like I said, if I had any unmatched missing RFID tags, I could come in here. Unfortunately, I don't have a live MotionWorks environment to set this up. So I'm just using demo data just for the purpose of this. But to that point, I do want to show a little bit of what this looks like in a real environment. So now I've got all my traditional information, right? My standard hardware asset details, and all this data here is populated through our processes or through our different integrations. But we can see here that this MacBook is currently in use. This gentleman here in France is using it. It's a sales guy, so boy, we don't know what kind of state this laptop's in. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Jonathan. But you can see here that this laptop, to our knowledge, is in France, and it's been there since 2020. And this is a new field. So now this field, if you're collecting, and you've been collecting RFID tags, you can come in here and populate this. And this is a reference field. So now I could come in here and I could drill directly into what that RFID tag information has, right? So this is all the data that comes in from the RFID tag itself. And I can see here that it's an active tag. I can retire these tags. It shows that this tag has been matched. It's not an unmatched tag. But just like any asset record, I could, if this tag was broken, or maybe I retired the asset and didn't take the tag off, I could deactivate this tag, right? So it's not looking for a match anymore. But this shows all the RFID information right into the platform, and this is its own special table that we created for the Zebra connector. And you can see here any changes that have happened to this tag itself. So we're treating this tag as almost an asset as its own. But we can see any changes would be tracked as updates. So every time this tag would go through a zone, go through maybe it goes into another building, all those updates happen. So I can start to create a log of all the activities that this tag has made to go right back into the asset itself. But we can look at the asset record here, and you'll be able to see within the asset, we've added sections for all the major fields that we've always had, but now you've got a section now for RFID built right into the asset form. And once again, these asset updates, these activities, you can see here that, I added the RFID tag here to this record. Normally that would happen through automation once it's brought in from the connector, but this asset's not, or this instance is not connected to a real-time asset. But you can see here that as this was just connected today, but as updates are made and as the jobs run, these fields will update. So I'll be able to see how long in which section these are. I won't have to swivel chair into MotionWorks or ask a buddy who has access to MotionWorks to double check this. Because right now this is showing in France at the Boulevard Vuitton, probably butchering that pronunciation. And you can see here, well, guess what? That's the location I have. But if this was California, I'd be freaked out. I'd want to dive in and find out where the real time, and I could, go into MotionWorks if I needed to, but I'm not going to have to because I have the connector here. And we can report on all this information. We can create now reports that show me what the site name and zone group versus the location, and look for disparities. And with the bringing in that latitude and longitude information, our location data is within ServiceNow also capture latitude and longitude. So now I can create business rules that look for anomalies where show me if this is off, right? And there's going to be times, right, where an asset's going to get on a plane and get to another city. But when the next sync happens, it should pick that up. So, but all good stuff, all built into the platform and allowing us to do a lot of really good stuff now that we have all this great data that's just sitting in another tool in your environment, now brought into the platform.
Awesome. Yeah, the opportunity that you can integrate this data into the platform is huge. Thank you, Michael, for showing that. Is there anything else in this demo you wanted to walk through?
No, it's that simple, but very powerful.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, with that, we have a solid chunk of time for questions. I've seen questions rolling through. I'm loving what I'm seeing here. So we'll just kick off and ask our panelists some of these. Here's one from Kola. Her question is, are physical RFID tags required for scanning of the assets? So maybe we can talk a little more about how that process works.
So it is the question, do we have to have a physical RFID tag? That's the question?
Yes.
So not necessarily to enter the asset. Certainly we can enter the asset and make an update as to where it is, what zone it's in, things like that without a tag. So within MotionWorks, there's the asset itself or the resource, and then there's the tag. Those are two different things. But to get that auto ID, to get those reads happening without manual intervention, then we want to marry those two together. Can you do it? Yes, you can. But I won't say it defeats the purpose, but it doesn't provide all of the automation that you would be hoping to get.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yeah. And to Jonathan's point too, is you're going to find that there's going to be, it's not always going to happen at the same time, right? There's going to be times where you come in and you may not have, you may have both of these applications, but you may not have tagged everything. So that's really where, as you're creating the asset records, whether it's in MotionWorks or it's in ServiceNow, definitely wanting to make sure that those get barcoded for the scanners to pick up will be beneficial.
Awesome. And I guess just as a quick follow-up question here, we have an additional question on our special tags required. So I guess, is there any additional steps the user needs to take on that front?
So I'll say they're not special tags per se. There's not a certain UHF RFID tag that we need. There are lots and lots of different form factors, lots of different styles, chipsets, et cetera, available. Zebra does manufacture and provide those, but we're one of many vendors. So you can use a label tag if you wanted to use something more of a hardened tag, like a more rugged RFID tag. Those can be used as long as it's a UHF, ultra high frequency, standard passive RFID tag. We should be able to read any of them. The only caution, the only caveat there is I'll say the smaller the tag, generally the less read range you have. Sometimes that's good and sometimes that's what you want. If you're trying to read everything in a whole room, you might want to make sure that you have something that's got a little more range to it. So just keep in mind the general rule of thumb: the larger the antenna in the tag, the more read range you're going to get out of it.
And Jonathan, can customers create their own and print their own RFID tags today?
Absolutely, they can. Absolutely, they can.
And what would they need to do that?
Sure, they would need to have label stock, of course, that has an RFID inlay built into it. But we have lots and lots of Zebra customers, or honestly other manufacturers, who will provide label stock with an RFID inlay in there. And then the most common way of encoding what goes in that RFID tag is during the print process. Whether that's a Zebra printer, of course, we'd prefer that, but other manufacturers make printers as well that can not only print the label, but also encode the tag at the same time, so that data gets matched up. We got a known RFID value inside the RFID chip, and then also a printed human readable label and a barcode all at the same time. It gives us the best of all possible worlds.
Absolutely. And just a real range of cost today to print either print or buy an RFID tag. What are tags costing nowadays?
So the most common printable inlay tags can go as low as, in the range of 5-10 cents. And it's going to depend on a wide variety of factors, right? How much memory do you want? How large is the inlay? How large is the label, et cetera, et cetera. But up to, the more ruggedized tags, like I was showing earlier, which might be, $5, $6, $7, $8, right? But still overall a pretty inexpensive range, even at the high end, for auto ID picking up of your assets.
Sure, I could probably dig my hand in my couch and get enough to tag a few assets.
Exactly.
And that's an interesting fact, because one of the things with RFID, which made it cost prohibitive when I was an asset manager, was it was $10 to $20 sometimes for these tags. You couldn't print your own; you had to buy them, and that scared a lot of organizations off of rolling this out. And just in the last decade alone, having that drop down to pennies per tag, I mean, that's not much different than the cost of printing your own tags today. And just to kind of leak something that's in our roadmap for upcoming releases is really bringing in that and continue our partnership with Zebra and introducing asset tag management now within the platform, being able to print your own tags from the asset records. And those could also be RFID tags as well. It just depends on the stock that you put in your Zebra printer to print those out. So that's something that we're looking to do down the road. I don't have a time frame on it, probably not in the next calendar year, but that's something that's coming. So giving you that flexibility to print your own tags with the Zebra printers that you probably already have a printer today. You just need to buy the stock and really do that today.
Right. And even changing what you're printing is very simple. If you're using the Zebra printer language, or ZPL, which is the most common way of creating a barcode or human readable label, there's only one more tag of ZPL that you would need to add to that template, and that would encode and select the data that you want and encode the data in the RFID enabled printer, whether that's a tabletop mounted printer, or even we've got mobile printers that will encode RFID labels as well.
Yeah. So Michael, there's a few questions I can kind of summarize together. One of them is around, is HAM required for the connector to work with RFID? And then also some questions around the cost that's associated with implementing the system and licensing costs for the Zebra inventory software. So to dive into these, the requirements for this to work is you need to either be licensed for hardware asset management today in ServiceNow. That's an additional licensing aspect of ServiceNow. That way you can intake all this data. And then you would need to be a Zebra MotionWorks customer as well. The actual costs of that, all I can say is work with your account teams to find out what it would cost for that if you're not a HAM customer today and you're not a MotionWorks customer today. And then there was another question around how we can connect our Zebra sales teams and our ServiceNow sales teams to have these discussions for you. We've created triage points through our partner internally. So if you're a ServiceNow customer, reach out to your account executive teams and they can make sure we can engage the right people for your industry, because we have Zebra, just like ServiceNow, has different teams that manage different industries to make sure we get the right people involved to helping you get this set up in your environment. And as far as the licensing costs, that's this stuff that comes up in those conversations.
Awesome. Great summary of a couple of different questions out there. Anything to add, John, or can I move on to another question?
I would just say, again, not here to discuss costs, but the MotionWorks Enterprise system is a tiered value system. The costs are related to number and complexity of readers, basically how many readers you have on your system. It's not based on how many sites you have or how many users you have. So it starts out at a fairly reasonable cost, up to 25 readers. And then as we go from 25 to 125 up to 600, those are tiered pricing elements, right? It jumps up as the complexity and as the number of readers go up.
Yeah, and so there was a question kind of around the readers. What types, can you speak to the types of devices that are reading that RFID information?
Sure. The most common, I would say, are our FX readers, the fixed industrial RFID readers. We've got the FX 9600, which is very rugged, lives out in the manufacturing environment. We've got an FX 7500, another fixed industrial reader, which is going to be a little more for the carpeted spaces, if you will. But each of those has got multiple antennas, multiple read points. So we can have multiple different read points based on however many antennas. Now, as a variation of that, we also have those readers built into things like dock door portals so that we can understand as goods are going in and out of a dock door. I may have a wall-mounted portal at a doorway so that I can understand as things go in and out through a choke point, right? Are they coming and going in and out the front door? We have overhead readers as well that can understand what's in a general area around, within the view of that overhead reader, or if I want to capture transitions going, through a doorway, I have overhead readers that can capture those transitions. So basically, the fixed readers are automatically and always scanning to capture transitions through an area, or maybe I've got a work table where every time I want to do something to an asset, I'm capturing a read there. And then, of course, we've got the handhelds that allow us to extend that visibility, extend that mobility, so that I can take a device with an Android interface and then use that to get extra reads of my RFID enabled devices or assets.
And for those of you with the type of device that Jonathan was just showing, if it's an Android operating system, guess what you can install on there as well? The ServiceNow app. So you could be doing multiple functions with one handheld scanner while you're out there in the field. That's great. Jonathan, what do you know of as far as near field communication with RFID? Is there anything that you can talk to? We have a question that just came up on the chat around that.
So generally speaking, the near field communication is not what we're talking about. We do have a lot of Zebra devices that are enabled with near field communication. We've not tied into that read as an asset read as of this time. It is something that we're looking at and talking about as an extra technology. But generally speaking, if I'm talking about a near field reader, I'm going to have to be near field. I'm going to have to be right next to the device. I won't be able to do a scan of my entire area and find out what's going on there, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like what we use for Google Play when we slap our phone on the thing at the checkout, right? We actually almost
exactly. When I tap my phone, that's a near field communication technology that's happening there, right? I've got an NFC reader in the phone and an NFC chip, if you will, in the device. So I'm doing that marriage and that read at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of what you're talking about is the advantage of the RFID is you don't have to be that close, right? You can put, and one of the things you brought up is creating that digital barrier. Like think about when we're at the mall and we forget that we're holding onto a pair of jeans and we turn too close to the door and the alarms set off. I mean, that's RFID right there. You guys are seeing it in your day-to-day as it is today. It's got
UHF RFID, or as you're paying your toll, as you're going through the toll booth, right? That's RFID. It's activating that tag and then getting the response back in very real time.
Yeah.
Right?
So your technology hasn't always been great for us. Just kidding. Because I live in the DC area. Some of the tolls are bad.
I'm sorry about that. It was maybe a bad example. But but if you do have a need for, very tight read zones, very I'll say almost near field, that can be accomplished with different antennas and different power settings on the reader as well. So if you do have a use case where you need to, be able to see something in a larger area and then, singulate it down to a very small workspace, maybe again, I've got a workbench where I need to do upgrades to my IT assets, or maybe I have a safe where sensitive things need to be put on legal hold, right? We can scale those with the antennas and the readers to really limit that read space. So I know very precisely where something is being read, even without moving to an NFC tag, which would then limit me to that smaller read zone. But I can do a smaller read zone or a larger read zone with the UHF.
Sure. And that's where we can start getting creative. Now that we have those zones and that data built into ServiceNow, we can start triggering events. So if an asset isn't supposed to ever leave that zone and it does, it can create an event and let the people know immediately when that happens. And no matter what type of real-time location tracking we are using, if it's going into MotionWorks, now it's going into ServiceNow. So it's really, really cool to have this today. And this is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time. Customers have been asking for it for a long time, and through this partnership, we've got it, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, it was not the focus of our work here. The focus of our work here was really wrapped around RFID enablement. But if you put an active tag on there, we'll send the data through just the same.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a whole other type of tagging that we haven't discussed. But yes, you could. That would allow for the handheld scanner that you were showing to go through and pull that information as well. Oliver asked a question in chat around maps, around the visualization. One of the things that got my mind spinning the first time I saw MotionWorks was that the dots on the map beeping around and so on and so forth. Not something that we included at the time for the initial go through, but something that may come down the road. One of the things that if you guys aren't aware that ServiceNow has expanded into is we have a WSD, a workplace service delivery application that actually does have a lot of similar views to what you're seeing in MotionWorks. So there may be some compatibility down the road, bringing that in, or at least bringing in a window into that view within MotionWorks. So that's just something down the road. Wouldn't stop you from building your own custom API into MotionWorks to expand upon that. We've made that conduit, and you can always expand upon it internally as your needs vary. But for now, if you wanted to look at all the pretty dots on the screen, you would need to go into MotionWorks to see that, or be using the WSD product in ServiceNow and make some configurations on your own.
Exactly, and that is something that's on our roadmap as well from MotionWorks Enterprise. We have had a number of customers who wanted to have an API that pulls the map data rather than just, the data. So if they wanted to query on a list of 25 assets, show me with dots on a map where those are, but show me in my application, return the map to me in my application, sort of watch this space. That is something that's on the roadmap in the fairly near term as an API out of MotionWorks as well.
Yeah, and it looks like we have one last question here. This is for our base asset management users. Does Zebra offer functionality for customers that are not using RFID?
So Yes, we do. Meaning, are they just using barcode? Would that be the idea?
I'm thinking. I'm going to assume, Belinda, and let me know if this isn't what you're thinking. But using the barcode scanning and so on and so forth, or maybe tag printing. I'll let you field this one, John.
Yeah, so certainly we could do that. We can use the barcode scan. We're not going to get the automated scans at various read points. We're not going to be able to do the waving of the magic wand with the Geiger counter to be able to find things. But can we singularly, barcode scan something and associate that to the resource or the asset and then send that up? Sure, we can. It's not the full set of value that you would be getting. I would think if you were doing that it might be just as easy to do that through HAM itself, but that won't stop us from doing it. Certainly we can do that. It's just not quite as much value.
Yeah, and to be fair too, a lot of our customers have been, asset management has been in the ServiceNow platform since the Berlin release, but HAM didn't come available until the Paris release. So we have a lot of customers that have built their own customized solutions in base asset management. And to your point, you have a lot of hardware out there that can be compatible with that, whether it's base scanner, just a basic IR scanner, or one of the handheld scanners. You could build it, but it would all, and that's the thing with base asset management, everything you would need to do nothing would be out of the box. You'd have to configure and create all your own process and all your own automation. And that's, to John's point, the automation that comes with hardware asset management would be what we're leveraging today to work seamlessly with the MotionWorks application, but you could build it all on your own if you didn't want to expand from base to hardware asset management.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys very much for fielding a series of really awesome questions. This really stirred a lot of thought here. So we can move on and start to close out now. Awesome. Thank you all for spending your time with us today. We have a number of resources and trainings available for you on the Now Learning portal, and white papers and user guides online that will also be posted on the event page later. So please check them out and continue your education with us. Of course, a lot of information can also be found on the ITAM community page, an amazing place to start with if you have any questions or comments, including this hardware asset management getting started guide, and other links to helpful documentation. So we encourage you to go there. And with that, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciated your thoughtful questions, and we will see you at future live events later on. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.